normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
We have a tweet from Steven Crowder. Facebook is now censoring the Nashville Manifesto. This is what we saw almost immediately after the story broke. This is what the news, this is what big tech companies do. Many news media outlets, they didn't want to cover the story. Social media companies don't want to get into any kind of debate. And this is a serious problem. We now know, based on local reporting and statements from local politicians, the leaks from Steven Crowder are real. And at the time, Facebook was taking them down. Google had their stupid alert when you searched for it saying the results are changing rapidly. Here are some other stories instead, which is what they do when they don't want you to read these stories. Here's what happens. Big tech companies basically say, if it doesn't come from the New York Times, we will not allow it. If, however, you get 5,000 local outlets reporting it, then there's nothing they can do to stop it. But they tried to stop it. Mm-hmm. And so, fortunately, I guess local news outlets immediately jumped on the story, broke through, and the story made it out. I think one of the biggest fears that Facebook and YouTube and many of these other platforms, not Rumble, not X, for instance, their fear, Steven Crowder just set the news cycle.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the New York Times is going to try to avoid it. They're going to be like, no, don't pick up his story. We're the ones who decide what people are talking about. But they've been losing that position. Steven Crowder was questioned by these news outlets. How do you know it's real? And we stand by our reporting. And it is a political comedian on YouTube who broke the biggest story today.
Because of people in their network. I mean, from what I understood from what he was saying during his live stream, it was someone involved in Mug Club who was like, I have a contact, I know a way to get this, and they were able to verify through that. That's pretty impressive, right? I mean, this is all journalists rely on their readers for tips. This is super normal, but it is interesting that he has built such a relationship that someone would be willing to potentially take, and I don't know who the source was, like a professional risk to get them this information. Yeah. That shows a lot of confidence in Steven Crowder.
It's citizen journalism.
That is not citizen journalism.
Well, but the citizen gave the journalism to Crowder to amplify the message. That's an aspect of modern citizen journalism.
This is the idea that this is citizen journalism was created to discredit people like Steven Crowder. Mm-hmm. I know this because I was at these conventions, I was at these conferences, and I was speaking at these events, and they kept saying you're just a citizen journalist. And I said no. Citizen journalism is a guy walking his dog. And then all of a sudden he sees a plane in the sky on fire. So he pulls out his phone and films it, and it crashes and he goes, whoa. And then he tweets a video.
I guess there's no way to know who it was that delivered the message.
They didn't give it to Fox.
But that's meaningless. The New York Times has sources all day, every day. Someone in law enforcement releases information. The New York Times publishes it. Steven Crowder is no different from the New York Times. Granted, he is a comedian on YouTube, but his news apparatus that got this information and published it is the same as WikiLeaks system, the same as New York Times' system. You have someone who liaises with a source. The source provides information. The information is vetted and then reported.
I just think it's cool that this is something he has built, right? When he was posting videos initially on YouTube, I'm sure he did not expect to be in the position he is today, which is that he decided what the news was going to be about. I mean, he came out with this on a Monday for a reason. This is going to lead the news cycle, at least for the next couple of days, probably through the end of the week.
This may actually force the release of the full manifesto,
which is probably the only way we would have gotten it out.
So one of the ideas that's being put out on X, on social media, is that these are select pages. And that in reality, while everyone's highlighting the anti-white sentiment that seems to have motivated the shooter, there's way more in there. And this person hates everybody and uses slurs for everybody. But the selective release would make it seem like it was one-sided.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable. I wouldn't be surprised if it's, not that I want to make predictions about such a dark document, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a consistent anti-white theme, because I think, as far as I can tell, Audrey Hale was white, and I think a lot of people who are raised in or who are coming up in progressive spheres are trained to hate themselves, especially if they're white.
Well, if you look at what was said in it, the perpetrator says things like private schools and fancy khakis.
And she attended that school.
It was very Marxist-esque. It was very oppressor versus oppressed.
Exactly.
So she was taking this back to the oppressors, and she was going to get the justice, and she hoped she had a high kill count. She said things like that in the document. Right. And that's where the market, I posted about something critical about public schools the other day, about how they're teaching Marxism to our kids. And somebody commented and said, they don't teach Marxism at public schools. I'm like, you don't explicitly have to give out a book by Marx to be teaching Marxism. It's this idea of this oppressor versus this oppressed thing, this critical theory thing. And when you just ram that down people's heads, you end up like militarizing and radicalizing an entire generation.
Yeah, they indoctrinate people with Marxism. Right. They don't, unfortunately, as far as I know, actually teach the theories of Marxism enough. They should probably teach that more so that you can realize if you were being indoctrinated.
No teaching in public school.
If they taught actual Marxist theory along with history of Marxism, the children would be crying by the end of the day and say, why would anyone ever do such a thing, those poor people? The 100 million who are
1958, 1962,
died.
Great Leap Forward, 100 million.
It's so easy
More
to be
than
like,
that too.
we're
But
all
yes.
in this together. Let's go, all of us. And then once the revolution happens, it's
Marxism
like,
killed
now
more
who's in
people
charge?
between 1958 and 1962 than white supremacism did between 1619 and 2019.
Yeah.
How many
4
people
years.
did it from 4 years?
Estimates of 100 million during the Great
just in
Leap
those
Forward.
4 years?
During the Great Leap Forward in China, they starved.
No, I don't think it was 100 million in 4 years.
Those are the high estimates.
100 million?
Yes, 1958, 1962. Look up the Great Leap Forward on Wikipedia. I believe estimates go as high as 100 million. There are lower ones that are in like the 50, 60 range.
Room is filled with rapid typing.
Yeah.
30 and 45.
30 and 45
Yeah,
million?
100 is the total deaths of communism, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I don't know.
You got to grab the mic, brother.
Give it to me, Serge. What's the word?
We can't hear you. No one else can either.
Yeah. Just in the 100 million is over the entire period of communist China,
Yeah.
not necessarily from like the
But
particular
no.
Great Leap Forward.
It's not. No, that's all communism.
Oh, okay.
I
Cool.
believe that there is a study that estimates that 100 million Chinese died specifically from the Great Leap Forward, but it might not be the most widely accepted study. But I'm almost positive that on the Wikipedia page for the Great Leap Forward,
100 million,
And
I
I'm-
think
The
is
Wikipedia
communism
says
total.
55 is the high end and
Also,
15 is the
it
low
is
end.
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
We do take it
All
with
right.
a grain of salt. But
Yeah,
I believe
that's
you. I
true.
mean, I think this is one of those things where why would they?
well, it's not that bad if it's only 50 million.
Jeez, 50 million people.
No, I think your other
It's
point
still
still
way more than the
stands.
Holocaust. It's like 10 times more.
And this is like the Great Leap Forward. I mean, I can try and explain it. It's when he took like a bunch of the teachers and things, and then he sent them out to the farms and was like, we got to...
Yeah, it was the other way around. He wanted to industrialize the nation of China to make it a factory-based sort of exporter. And so he took all the agricultural people and put them in the cities so nobody was working the farms. Then everybody that was responsible for the districts of the farms was too scared to report to their higher-ups they weren't meeting quotas on harvest. Because China's, communism, you're scared to tell your boss you're not meeting numbers. And so they didn't realize that there was like a mass shortage of food until it was too late and everybody starved over like 4 years.
That's why I always feel like you can't trust any numbers that come out of China because, number one, why would they report anything accurately to the outside world anyways? And also, why would they internally report accurately? There's no benefit for them.
But why would the U.S.? Yeah,
Oh.
I tweeted this out over the weekend. TikTok may be Chinese communist propaganda, but Facebook and YouTube are American communist propaganda.
that was what the Fourth Estate was all about.
Shout out to Elon Musk
We were
for
supposed to-
liberating X and to Chris Pavlovsky for making Rumble.
And for lifting up the fourth pillar. That's what these guys are doing. It's supposed to be a fourth branch of government. It's not really, but it's the Fourth Estate. It's journalism. It's the journalists that keep the politicians to task, that cover the government and make sure it's honest. And that, unfortunately, the fascism involved with the digitalization of our news media has been way too easy for the government to corrupt. So I'm happy to see organizations like Minds, Rumble, and X holding the truth. Like Rumble, they tweeted out, on X, we're holding the line about Crowder's post. They're not going to block it like this, like this Facebook did.
Yeah, shout out.
It all started with Cambridge Analytica. After they blamed the election of Donald Trump in 2016 on social media, all of a sudden, all of the big tech companies got really scared and really ramped up their censorship because I think that there was this either explicit or unstated threat. They felt like the government was going to come in and split them up if they didn't do something.
What was the Cambridge scandal?
I don't think it was that.
You don't think so?
I think it was that they were just once again trying to manipulate and control the system.
For sure.
Yeah, so Cambridge Analytica had access to, 40 million
There's a bunch of
users.
data that was allegedly used to win the election for Trump.
And I think it's complete nonsense. The idea was that this company, Cambridge Analytica and SCL Group, had access to user data, which they used to target voters. And the reason why that's stupid and nonsensical is that we've talked to Dr. Robert Epstein, who's pointed out that Google, I love this. We can simplify the algorithmic manipulation electoral argument with a very, very simple statement. Facebook sends reminders to Democrats on election day and not to Republicans. That's the only thing they need to do to steal an election.
Do they still do that?
So according to Dr. Epstein, who appeared on the Culture War 2 weeks ago, when they were tracking their 10,000 plus user group for studying their social media experiences, they found that 59% of Republicans received a reminder, but 100% of Democrats received a reminder.
Ooh, that sounds like that should be illegal.
Yes. And when
It's
Ted
donation
Cruz...
in kind.
Absolutely. And when Ted Cruz wrote a letter saying what you are doing, we have questions about this, he said they saw instantly Google turned the bias system off in Georgia. So that means that the implication is Google is intentionally manipulating elections.
Oh, man. I made a video in 2007. I was like, vote Barack Obama. You're going to win the election. Vote for Barack Obama, everyone. Barack, you're the next president. And I was like, I felt like I was manipulating the election. I mean, in a way, I was like...
It's your fault, man.
Google, they actually featured that video and put it on the front page of the news and politics section. Talk about interfering. Like, it was not illegal, but it was just mass manipulation of vote for my guy.
Right, when they pushed your video.
Well, and probably because there's not an equal representation, right? It's whoever is willing to support Obama can be on the front page, but anyone else does not get to be on the trending page, does not get to exist at all.
It was total political bias. Both me and the guy that featured me wanted Obama to win.
See, I feel like yours isn't manipulative. Like, if you really feel like they should vote for Obama, you have a platform, you can say that, right? It's different when YouTube decides certain videos get to make it to the front page, certain videos get to be boosted by the algorithm, and it's not equally applied, right? I mean, we know this through our own experiences. I mean, you're on YouTube. There are certain videos that are performing well that do not make it to the pages or lists that they should because YouTube is intentionally diverting them elsewhere.
And it's not always in the best interest of the business either. Like when they censor people like Alex Jones from YouTube, we're talking like hundreds of millions of views consistently. And so it seems to me like almost a betrayal of the shareholders of the company when you're bringing people off the platform just for political motives. I wonder if there's a lawsuit avenue there because there's a duty to honor what's in the best interest of the shareholder. So the fact that there's a political motivation that seems to transcend the monetary motivation seems to me to imply that there's this Twitter files thing going on, but with all these other platforms where there's just intelligence community operatives just kind of pushing
But we
there.
do know that Nancy Pelosi's net worth, her and her husband, is around $200 million. So it's the political is monetary.
Yeah.
The political motivation. And let me just say, what a strange and unfortunate coincidence that the Clinton Global Initiative, or the Clinton Foundation, I believe, their contributions dried up shortly after Hillary Clinton lost the election.
Mm-hmm.
Just what a
They
coincidence.
just restarted it too, didn't they? The Clinton Foundation to rebuild Ukraine. That's what they said.
So
Well, that's been
the
their
general
goal all
idea is
along.
this. The idea was that the expectation with Hillary becoming president, everybody's donating money to her foundation, which is a laundering, I guess. And then the idea is if she becomes president, then those favors get paid back. They purchased something, but she lost. And this is what I really, really love. I just want to shout out that 2016 was, that election. Oh boy. I remember that night oh so well. All the Trump supporters. Well, I'm sorry. I was at the Sputnik office with Cassandra Fairbanks and Cassandra McDonald, sorry. And she was the only Trump supporter there. Everyone else was upset. People were crying, and she was laughing, crying, and it was funny. But what was really funny about it was that the establishment machine of money churn and revolving doors was just shattered in an instant. And the panic was absolutely hilarious for the DC elites who owed millions of dollars to foreign donors and lobbyists that they weren't going to be able to pay back. Now you have Matt Gaetz doing the same thing to Kevin McCarthy. And all of that money put into him becoming speaker was just ripped away from him, and he ain't going to be able to pay it back. I just love watching the machine get ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it
Kind of
must
the purpose
feel
of the United States. Oh, sorry.
What do you
interrupted. That this whole United States revolution away from the machine of the British Empire. I mean, the whole point is ripping that thing to shreds and creating a new system that's way better. American republicanism.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.